Good evening, everyone. Short stories in English. The story number 2, A Very Unusual Excursion. Chapter 2. The Search. خب طبق معمول ما اول میریم روی بلاکینگ وکابلری ها، کلماتی که اگر متوجه نشین معنی رو نمیتونین متوجه شین، نمیتونین جیست بکنین، جنرال آیدیا رو بگیرید. بعد داستان رو به انگلیسی میخونیم و بعد خلاصش رو و چند تا سوال میپرسیم و جواب میدیم. Vocabulary. No way. Slang. An expression used to show surprise or disbelief. راه نداره. Slang یعنی اصطلاحات on the ground. کوچه خیابونی. Split up. To divide a group of people into smaller groups or individuals. یعنی از هم جدا شدن. Crazy. Silly or stupid. دیوونه. ابله. احمق. Imagine. To form a picture of someone or something in your mind. تصور کردن. Ticket. بلیط. A small group of trees. Thicket. A small group of trees. یه دسته. یه جایی که چند تا درخت کنار همه. Thicket. Not ticket. Wave. To move your hand to say hello or goodbye or to attract someone's attention. Wave. دست تکون دادن. Mobile. A telephone that you carry with you. Mobile. تلفن همراه. Mobile service. The system that allows you to use a mobile telephone. سرویس تلفن، سیستم سرویس تلفن یعنی آنتن دهی. Joke. Something said or done to be funny. Joke. Think things through. To consider or work through a problem. یعنی همه جوانب رو سنجیدن. به یه موضوعی از همه جانب فکر کردن. Taxi. A car with a driver who you pay to take you from one place to another. Taxi. And neighborhood. An area of a town or city. یه محله. Neighbor یعنی همسایه. Neighborhood یعنی محله یا منطقه. Chapter 2. The Search. Did you see that, Sylvia? George said. Yes, answered Sylvia. What was it? I don't know, but it was very big and very ugly. Yeah, like some kind of creature. George looked at Sylvia and said, Let's go after it. بریم دنبالش. Are you kidding? Answered Sylvia. No way. Come on, we are here to explore. Let's follow it. بس بریم دنبالش. Oh, George, I don't know about this. George and Sylvia left the old house. They followed the creature's footprints into the woods. They looked around. Finally, George said, The creature could be anywhere. We have to split up. Split up? Said Sylvia in surprise. Are you crazy, George? There's a strange creature out here, and we don't know where it is. I know, George answered, but we could take a picture of it. We might be on the news. What? Come on, Sylvia, said George. Maybe it's a special animal. Maybe it was never photographed before. He looked at Sylvia and continued. They might write an article about us. Maybe I will be interviewed for the TV news. شاید با من مصاحبه بشه تو اخبار تلویزیون. We could stop. You're so crazy, George. I shouldn't encourage you. But fine. Let's split up then. George went one way. Sylvia went the other. Sylvia saw no sign of the creature. She thought more about it. In the end, she came to the simplest conclusion. She and George imagined the creature. It was not real. A few minutes later, Sylvia saw George in the woods. It was almost dark. She told George about her conclusion. نتیجه گیری. She told him the creature was not real. George disagreed. He was certain it was real. They just needed to prove it. فقط لازم بود که ثابتش کنن. Suddenly, George saw a thicket of trees. He wanted to see if the creature was inside. He told Sylvia to wait. As he went into the thicket, George smiled and waved. Sylvia waited for George to come out. She waited several minutes. No George. She waited nearly half an hour. Still no George. Sylvia looked at her mobile phone. It had no service. She couldn't even call for help. At this point, she was scared, but she couldn't just leave George. Suddenly, she thought, maybe he went back to the house. Maybe this is all a joke. Sylvia walked back to the old house. She looked around. Still no George. She decided to wait. If he was joking, she could joke too. She planned to act normally. She would act as thought it was no big deal that he was missing. That would be fun. اون میتونه طوری رفتار بکنه انگار اتفاق مهمی نیفتاده و چیزی پیش نیومده. باحاله. There was an old bed in the main room. She sat down and took out a sandwich. She ate it and thought about George. Where was he? What could she do? As Sylvia thought, she became sleepy. Her head could not function. What a day. I'll just wait for George here, and that was her last thought as she went to sleep. Sylvia woke up early the next day. George still wasn't there. She had hoped the whole experience was a dream, but now she realized it wasn't. She was really worried. Maybe it wasn't a joke. Sylvia decided to go to the nearest town. She walked back along the same path. At last, she came to a small town. Although it was a Sunday, there were several people around. Sylvia tried her mobile phone again. Still no service. None. She needed a phone now. Sylvia went to a nearby restaurant. There were a lot of people there. Sylvia didn't know what to say. It was a very unusual situation. Finally, she decided not to say anything. She went to the owner and said, "Hello? Can I use your phone, please?" "Of course you can. It's on the wall over there." "Thank you very much." First, Sylvia rang George's number. His mobile didn't ring. Maybe there was a problem with it. Next, she decided to call George's house. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Why didn't anybody answer? George's brother was normally home in the morning. Not today. Sylvia called again, but there was no answer. She left a message. "Where are you, George?" she asked. Sylvia left the restaurant. She stood on the street for several minutes and thought. Sylvia was an independent woman. زن مستقلی بود. She was a woman who thought things through. همه جوانب رو میسنجید. Right then, she thought, let's figure this out. بیا این کارو بکنیم. Maybe George got lost in the thicket. And when he came out, I was gone. So he went home. That must be it. Sylvia had to get back to George's house. She ran back to the restaurant and called a taxi. After 30 minutes, she arrived at George's house. That's £9, said the driver. Here is £10, said Sylvia. Keep the change. بقیه‌شو نگه دار. Have a good day. Sylvia got out of the taxi and walked towards George's house. The house was very big and beautiful. It had 2 floors and a garden. It was in a very nice neighborhood. There were big houses and shops all around. George's car was parked outside the house. Was George inside? Had he called his family? Sylvia checked her mobile phone. She had service now, but there were no messages. She called George again. She left another message and said she was worried. She asked him to contact her right away. I don't understand, she thought. George drove his car home, so why didn't he call me? Sylvia rang the doorbell. There was no answer. She rang 3 times, but no one answered. Sylvia was concerned. Sylvia نگران بود. She went to the house of her 2 friends, Claudia and Veronica. Her friends weren't at home either. She tried calling. Their phones were turned off. Something strange was going on. She just didn't know what. All her friends had disappeared. Sylvia didn't know what to do. She didn't want to contact the police. She knew George was safe because his car was home. There were no friends around to ask for help. Sylvia decided to do something. She would find George herself. At this point, it was late afternoon. At this point, it was late afternoon, so Sylvia took another taxi back to Lake Oldswater. She took the path into the woods near the cabin. After a few minutes, she saw the old wooden house, but this time she noticed a difference. There were lights on in the house. That's chapter 2. Let's read the summary. ببینید یه مقدار ممکنه سخت بوده باشه. یه سری کلمات و یه سری جمله رو نفهمید. منتها اصلا مهم نیست. شما باید جیس بکنید. باید جنرال آیدیا رو بگیرید. اصلا قرار نیست شما همه مطلبی که میخونید رو بفهمید. شما باید بگیرید که موضوع چیه. آروم آروم به مرور زمان با خوندن و خوندن و خوندن این هی سطح درکتون بالاتر میره. Sylvia and George look for a strange creature in the woods. سیلویا و جورج دنبال یه موجود عجیب میگردن تو جنگل. George disappears. جورج ناپدید میشه. Sylvia goes to the old house to find him. سیلویا میره تو خونه قدیمی که پیداش کنه. He isn't there. اونجا نیست. She falls asleep. خوابش میبره. She wakes up the next day. فردا صبح بیدار میشه. George still isn't there. جورج هنوزم اونجا نیست. She's worried. اون نگرانه. She calls George. به جورج زنگ میزنه. He doesn't answer. اون جواب نمیده. She goes to his house. اون میره خونه جورج. She sees his car. اون ماشینش اونجا میبینه. But she can't find him. And she can't find her friends. اون نمیتونه جورج رو پیدا کنه نه دوستای خودشو. She finally returns to the old house. بالاخره اون برمیگرده به خونه قدیمی. There are lights on in the house. چراغای خونه این بار روشنه. Let's go for a comprehension question. And in the next chapter, we will see what is happening. Comprehension question. Select one answer. At first, Sylvia thinks that the creature is real, a joke, George in her imagination. اول سیلویا فکر میکنه که اون موجوده واقعیه، شوخیه، خود جورج تصوراتشه. It says in her imagination. B. Later, George comes across a special tree, another house, Sylvia's car, a group of trees. بعداً جورج میره اونوره به سمت یه درخت، یه خونه دیگه، ماشین سیلویا، a group of trees, thickets. D. A group of trees. Sylvia falls asleep in. سیلویا خوابش میبره در the woods, جنگل, the boat on the lake, قایق, a bed in the house, یه تخت توی خونه و the town, شهر. A bed in the house, یه تخت خواب توی خونه. When she wakes up, Sylvia, وقتی اون بیدار میشه سیلویا goes to a nearby town, میره توی شهر نزدیک. Goes to the thicket, میره لای اون درختا. Calls George's parents, به پدر مادر جورج زنگ میزنه. Calls her parents, به پدر مادر خودش زنگ میزنه. She goes to a nearby town, میره به نزدیکترین شهر. And the last question, when she returns to the lake, وقتی برمیگرده دریاچه, Sylvia sees, سیلویا میبینه a fire in the house, آتیش تو خونه. Lights on in the house, چراغ روشنه تو خونه. The creature in the house, اون موجود تو خونه. George in the house, جورج تو خونه است. It is part B, lights on in the house, چراغا تو خونه روشنه. Thank you very much for being with me. That was chapter 2. Please tell me in your comments if you have any problem or new idea. Thank you very much.